seconds, preparing. The stream is starting. All right. Hello, everyone. Clayton Davis here, editor-in-chief and owner of awardcircuit.com. Sitting here, someone's infiltrated our site today, Mr. John Downer, director of the outstanding documentary series Serengeti, which is now streaming on Discovery Go. Hello, John. Thanks for being with us today.
Pleasure.
Good. John, I have to start. This is always like any documentary person, filmmaker, with capturing nature in the way you do. I have to know how you do it. Are you hunched in a tree? Are you just looking down? How does it work to get these shots, to get this going?
Well, for Africa, and for Serengeti, we generally operated from a vehicle as our base, and we had the vehicle strewn with different kinds of cameras which could track with the animals as they moved, and basically even shoot if they're on 1,000 mil lens, and they can be quarter of a mile away, and you're still getting amazing shots. But we also wanted to get really, really close to them, and that was when we either got out the vehicle and we set up remote cameras, around water holes or where we're expecting them to be. And then we had things like boulder cams, which were camera carrying devices, which were protected against the lions that could capture footage right in the heart of their pride.
So when you set out for the day to do these, I don't know, I guess I don't know a lot about it. So are you heading out saying all right, we're gonna go find a tiger today, and then is it kind of like a wanderous, a random wandering around, or what how does that even get planned out?
Well, we spend nearly 2 years with these animals, and my amazing crew. We had three teams, and they know these animals inside out. And the thing is, you get to know. You have to get in their heads to film them properly. Yeah. So they're already thinking, what are those animals thinking? And so then, they make some guesses, and that's, you build up experience, and you think, well, they're going to be the next day. What they're going to be doing? Is it going to be interesting what they're doing? So you set off with a plan in mind based on what happened yesterday. But that changes as soon as you get out, because you see something even more amazing. And then suddenly your focus shifts. I mean, we follow the stories, basically. We're almost like journalists, you go for the story. But we always have a plan, because you have to.
You have to be prepared for whatever happens. So I often say this, joking around, but I'm being serious also. I'm a chubby guy, so I don't do well in heat. It doesn't work for me. I just absorb it, and it just doesn't. I get really cranky. Africa obviously is very hot. How important is it for you and your crew to stay safe, hydrated? What does a day look like? How long are you out there?
Well, the odd thing about Africa, and it's kind of against most people's preconceptions, is a lot of it's really high. So you're pretty much driving on the top of a flat mountain, and so the day starts really cold, and until you get to about 11 o'clock, and from that point till about 4, it is baking and humid. Yeah. Often. So those are the tough days, so that's when you go underneath an acacia tree and you just try and find some shade somewhere, and somewhere where you can also look at the animals you're studying, and if they do something, move quickly to hit them. But yeah, a lot of the problems in the first, you can go out in the morning thinking, this is Africa. You still think that it's got to be warm. And then you go into this sort of frost pocket or something, and it's freezing. I mean, I've been almost the coldest I've ever been in Africa, just because I haven't got the right clothes. You never get the right clothes.
So you're packing both a big bubble coat, and then just tank tops, just for a random, it could all be worn the same day.
Exactly. You got to be prepared for both, and you're never prepared for both, because it's this is Africa. Every time you set off, you forget. It can get very cold.
Oh man, that's crazy. So I have some of your stuff here, and for for a lot of people who aren't familiar with your work, you have been in the trenches of nature before, with polar bears, Life Sense, Weird Nature. just kind of touched on all these different things over your career, and you are a zoologist. What animals, I guess it's always weird to ask a zoologist, what animals speak the most to you? Like, what is it about capturing animals on film that has really piqued your interest and you want to show people what they're about?
I'll tell you a really surprising one, because it came from Serengeti, is that, you know, I really like primates, but I wasn't expecting, when we decided we've got to have some monkey in this, you know, and the obvious was the baboon.
Yeah.
And I could not believe in the end, once we started getting under the skin of these animals, you know, how extraordinary they were, and how clever they were, and how, I mean, you could see ourselves reflected in them, because it's like they think like we do, and they're conniving, and they're plotting, and they can show one side, and on the other side, you know, there's something else going on. And so I found that really interesting, because they were used to be the sort of animals that you would drive by and think, oh, those are the baboons, so let's go for the lions, or let's go for the elephants. And you think, but we didn't, and we stopped, and we spent a lot of time with them and started to unpick their family behavior, and they became the most popular animals in the show. And so for me to take something that people didn't really know a lot about, and then they are the ones that come to the surface, and they're the ones that everyone says, I love Bakari, I love his story, I just love that guy, you know. I thought that was, for me, quite a big moment, you know.
When as you made, because this is a 6-episode series, I know when you first set out to do it, you knew it wasn't going to be a film, it was going to be a series, it was going to be multiple episodes. Is there the director's cut that is like 24 episode season that can go on for years and years with all the footage that you were able to capture?
I suppose the style of it, you know, kind of stops that. The director's cut is what you see, because, you know, it is quite intense in terms of the filming of an event and then the editing of that event, because we have multiple cameras, and some are at ground level, some are on the vehicles, some are right in among the animals. And so that whole thing of how can I make this moment more like a drama, you know, experiencing a drama, even though it's reality there in the animals. Well, so you have all the shots that you need to kind of make it work as a drama. So you've got the reaction shots, you've got the over the shoulders, you've got everything that you would normally have. And so the sheer effort that went into every single scene on Serengeti, I think I wouldn't like to say, let's do, you know, 24 episodes or 50 episodes. I'd love to do that, but they all have to do the same. You know, they have to reach that height in terms of what I wanted from it.
All right. To talk a little bit about the creative team that's behind this. Worked with Simon Fuller. Now you're from the UK. Over here in the States, Simon Fuller is the guy who brought us American Idol. He gave us Simon Cowell and bad singing and great singing on television. How did that happen? How did that merge occur?
Well, he phoned me, and he knew some friends of mine and knew what I did. And actually, even on one of my first films, when he was just starting out, although we discovered that discovered that afterwards, is that, you know, he even had an artist who composed one of my first series, the titles for it. You know, so there was always that kind of, well, then we had friends who kind of crossed paths, and I was working on a movie with some script writers who Simon knew, and they said, if you're going to be doing a film on nature, come to John Downer. And so that's where it's happened, I think. But the big thing, I think, because that could have resulted in nothing, but when I met him and we started talking about our mutual enthusiasm for Africa, him from a sort of not a zoological, background, from just an entertainment background. We were in the same place. He wanted to make a film, that showed the emotional side of animals, how similar to us they are, about their lives, and film it in a way, that was more, not like a soap, because that kind of denigrates it. We wanted to it wanted to be big. It wanted to be big, epic, more like a feature film, but with those sort of story elements of, serial drama. And so we were on the same page. And with all the stuff I've been doing in my life, making nature films, it's always been about getting closer and closer visually, but also in terms of, what we're revealing about those animals, and more about their emotional lives, not just about, a lion jumping on a buffalo or whatever, things which kind of you relate to in your heart,
Yeah. Oh, it's quite profound. It's in terms of where you, and kind of the connection that you made with Fuller, and kind of just seeing how this came full circle for both of you. You also worked with Lupita Nyongo, who's Academy Award winner.
Yeah.
And we have to state some obvious things here. One is that, first of all, Lupita Nyongo is one of the most talented people working today. In documentaries, we don't have a lot of female narrators at all. Go on top of that, a woman of color narrating something like this. As the time in our country right now with Black Lives Matter, the world, how did you get involved with her, and then how has that shaped your perception of your crew and talent, and diversifying that as a filmmaker?
Well, we knew it had to be a person of color. I mean, it needed someone who had their origins, in Africa, because that was a no-brainer. It wasn't really a discussion point. It just seemed to be, I don't want, an old, white guy, narrating.
A lot of filmmakers would have done that, though. They totally would have.
Well, maybe it didn't even come into. Yeah. I didn't even think about that, because I wanted it to feel like it came from that place, and Simon, knew Lupita, introduced me to her, but I was looking at voices, and she had done something, and she can't even remember what it was, but she had her Kenyan accent.
Okay.
And I love the Kenyan accent. It's got a lilt to it. It's got a musicality to it. And I knew I wanted her voice, but I also wanted her to touch that voice, because she was brought up in Kenya. And it was only after, she's been doing interviews, that I've realized how significant that was for her. For me, it gave an integrity to what she's doing. It placed it in that place. And it gave it a slight otherworldliness that was rooted in Africa. And it was the most perfect thing. And I love Lupita. I got on so well with her. And she did a magical job.
How long did the filming take place up until the point you signed Lupita on to be the narrator? How did that all sync up?
It was by that time we had finished the filming, but we were in the midst of the edit. Okay. So I was able to show her stuff, so she had a real sense of what this film was. The scripting wasn't perfected, but there was, it was enough for her to understand this is a nature film like no other nature film. And for her, that was really important. She totally got the ethos of it. And she, she's a champion for wildlife, so what a better combination, it couldn't have been.
Yeah. I think one of the most significant things also that your film touches upon, and I think this has probably been the theme of all your films and series, about mankind's respect for nature. You seem to have that respect personally as John Downer, while mankind does not. and we are at a very critical turning point in our existence in this world. Where do you feel like your appetite as a filmmaker is going as you explore these new territories, and we have things like global warming that is taking a big focus on filmmakers' intrigue? Where do you see yourself going in terms of capturing nature?
Yeah, what I want to try and do, because there are a lot of great people doing, bringing that to the fore and discussing it. But what I've tried to do with my films, and Serengeti, typified that, is that I want people not to just think of them as those animals, that we don't know much about, but we know they're there. Those animals out in Africa or whatever. I want people to identify with them, know what their lives are like, and in a way that connects to you as a human being. Because if you value them, and you will only value them if you understand them. Once you value them, you would never think, if that place is being destroyed or whatever, that is a very different thing, because those lives are being destroyed, and you understand those lives, and that means something a lot more. And I think people need to know, that connection that we have with nature. I mean, we once had that connection with, we didn't live in cities, we were at one with animals, and and in Africa, you still meet people who live, with animals around them, and they think of them totally differently. They value them, in a different way, because they see what they really like, and they don't see them as this distant thing. They see them as they're part of this world, And so all I'm trying to do, and increasingly, is get people to make that connection more and more, so that in the bigger framework, what we're doing to the world has meaning, on an emotional level.
Yeah. As you film these different scenarios, have you ever found yourself, and this is really like, it's probably a silly question when you say it out loud, but have you ever felt like you were in real danger while filming? Obviously, you're in danger if you're in nature filming some tigers doing some stuff. But like, have you ever you had any close calls?
We spend a lot of time making sure we don't have close calls.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we don't have close calls. But they come when you take all the precautions you can, and they're the surprise events that happen, and even on this one, I mean, I was just walking a short distance, from where we were going to eat to the sleeping area. And, as I was walking along the path, suddenly I see a herd of buffalo coming towards us. This is in the blackness. It's just caught up in the torchlight. And then they come straight at me, and they part, and then behind it is a hyena running, and he's hunting these wildebeest.
This was like a scene from The Lion King. They were like,
fortunately, they decided they wouldn't just go through me. They went to the side of me, and so did this hyena, which was coming straight at me. They're much more interesting to eat than I was. So off he went after them, and he did almost brush my leg, and there was nothing I could have done. And that's unfortunately, like, when things happen, it's when you least expect it, and there was nothing to warn you. But we part of our filming is trying to get the cameras on the sharp end, and if you want to get into the jaws of lions, you use a remote camera. You don't do it yourself. And so, that part of the development of the kit is actually to lower the risk at every level.
Oh, whew. Hyena brushing your leg. That's not fun. All right. So you were nominated for an Emmy Award in 2005, which is like 45 years ago, it feels like, because I've been in this room probably for the last 3 months, so I don't know when 2005 was. But you were nominated for an Emmy Award in 2005, and there's probably a really good chance you might be nominated again for Serengeti. That type of recognition that comes your way. what does that do for you as a filmmaker? Does it kind of give you some extra oomph to like really raise your game every single time, or um, does it not really do anything for you?
Well, I mean, it's wonderful to have recognition, but I suppose I'm driven to make just a better film each time, and obviously the more that's recognized, the more you feel that this is, doing something and reaching people and that kind of thing. So to that extent, it's really significant, and wow, an Emmy is amazing.
Yeah,
But, I'm driven by the last film. I could do better next time, or I want
yeah,
to do better next time, because I think the beauty of working in film, and I'm sure it applies to everyone, that you never feel you've learned everything and you never feel you've done everything. So you're continually looking at, oh God, I learned so much on that. Now I can do this, So I think that's the thing that drives me the most, But to have recognition, is huge. I mean, as it is for anyone.
yeah. As you know, we use IMDb to kind of determine your future and see what you're working on. I know you must have something in your back pocket. What is your next kind of
Well, we
venture?
got a few, but we are doing another Serengeti. We
Okay.
are we are doing that, and we have another big project lined up as well. So, um, yeah, so there's plenty of things to do. There's plenty of things to keep the creative juices flowing.
Yeah. Has there ever been any feeling of doing some narrative features or any other type of directing for you?
In quite a few years ago, I started to move in that direction. But you know how long it takes to get a movie off the ground, and the things that go in your way, and then that. So I had a couple that got a long way, and then kind of didn't quite take off. And these were narrative pieces. So I thought, well, why don't I do what I really enjoy,
Yeah.
and things you can get finance for, you know, quickly enough to make it.
Yeah.
Have the idea and make it, and that's kind of is something I've been very lucky with. So I can keep making films and make them and not be sitting around thinking, what am I going to do next?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and getting to know you a little bit, and especially for our viewers, what were some of those early influences that kind of pushed you into this lifestyle of filmmaking? What is some of the early memories you have of watching something you're like, I got to do that, I got to bring something
I'll tell you what, there is one, because I can remember the moment, and
okay.
it's a bit of a British cliche, but it was watching, David Attenborough is still going strong, but when I was a little kid, he was just starting out,
Here's
and
the
he
thing,
did
yeah.
these adventures to Komodo Island, where the idea was to capture a Komodo dragon, and that transfixed me, and I thought, I've got to do that. I've got to do that. Never thinking in a million years I would do that, or even what work with, Sir David. So that was the inspiration that made me want to, study zoology, and also maybe want to film as well. Because it was a film work that made me excited.
Yeah.
And so that got me on the other course, which comes together in making these films.
Actually, just thinking about it right now, and maybe I don't know, maybe it's a little bit unfair to kind of think of it like this, but you're a zoologist and you're also a filmmaker. Do you consider yourself equally passionate about film as much as zoology? Like, do those things just kind of end up pairing together?
They just pair together and go somewhere else,
Okay.
because it's very different, kind of the academic study of animals and
Yeah.
making a film which entertains and absorbs and makes people understand in a different way. There's no facts that are given out in Serengeti, but you learn so much. you know, because you experience it. And I think experiencing it is something that never happens in kind of science. It all has to be statistical and analysis and all the rest. And it's very difficult to capture the element of animal behavior that is just about them living their lives. You know, it all has to be quantified and written up and proven by, you know, we see an animal do this, it's got to do it again, got to do it again. Now we can say that's their behavior. Well, I'm interested because they do not conform to what you think in the textbooks. You know, they're always surprising you. And we spend so much time literally with them, you know, not studying them, with them. So we're seeing stuff all the time that no one's ever seen. And a lot of Serengeti, there was stuff that no one had ever seen, you know, because we were there to capture it. So you can't say, you know, from the scientific perspective, you know, you can only record what can be authenticated and you know, all that kind of stuff. But you film it, people can watch it, they can make up their own minds. They can see the intent, they can see the thought processes of the animals. And for us, we're spending our lives trying to second guess them because they just most of the time seem far cleverer than us, you know?
Yeah. Okay. I actually have a few fun questions here for you because I hope be serious about like animals all day, because we can talk about what is the animal you want to come back as when this life is over.
Oh, I wouldn't mind being an elephant, but they're lovely, they're long-lived, they have a lovely family life, but I wouldn't want to come back to anywhere where there's poaching. I think that would be the big negative.
Okay. My answer used to be a koala bear when I was younger, but I don't think that's an answer I can give anymore. I just think it's like, because are they like weirdly aggressive, even as slow as they are? I think I've read that somewhere.
Yeah, we've been filming them recently. Yeah, they will fight each other.
Yeah. So I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Yeah, but they spend all their time eating eucalyptus, and you have to really like eucalyptus, you know, because I think that would be the negative. It's a bit of a boring diet, really.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, maybe I want to be something dangerous that like can really defend itself or get away. So I guess a cheetah, but just
I'll tell you, cheetah is one of my favorite animals. They're just so beautiful and so graceful, and they are just amazing creatures. And you know, but they just spend a lot of time running away from things. You know, they're not that good at defending. You know, because they're as you know, the fastest animal on land. But because they've got a very light frame, and so they will run from a lion rather than you know, fight it. But you'll be able to run away, you know. So it's not a bad thing.
That's important to me. Good. That's good transition to my next question. What is the most beautiful animal or most amazing animal you've physically seen in person?
I think probably a tiger. I just think they're out of all the big cats. Oh.
Like in the wild, I'm sorry, I should be.
Yeah, in the wild, yeah.
That's more for my readers, because they'd be like, I saw a tiger at the zoo, but like, nope, not the same thing.
No, I made a whole film about tigers over, it was about 3 years, and spent so much time with them on elephant back, because that's how the park managed the reserve. So we would get very close to them. Eventually the tigers just ignored these elephants. And you know, at one point, you know, there was some cubs which grew up over the course of the filming. And at the end, we had a mother with 4 cubs, and we were just traveling with them like we were one of them, riding on the back of the elephant. And, you know, if they climbed up on something, we might be just about 3 feet away from the head of a tiger, but they're thinking about, what's my prey? Where am I going? And we were just traveling through this jungle with the elephants, with the tigers, this family of tigers just walking with us as though we were one of them. And that was one of my most incredible memories.
How long ago was that?
But that was a long time. Well, it's probably about, could be 20 years ago, at least 15 years ago. Yeah. Okay. I mean, but it still lives with me, that. I think the other is, there's nothing more beautiful than a polar bear, you know, out on the ice floe.
Awesome. You know? You've already hit kind of like the peak of narrators with Lupita Nyongo. However, if you could pick anyone to narrate your next film, who would it be?
Lupita Nyongo.
You just take her again? Take her again every time?
Oh, she's just so great. I mean, it's so difficult. You know, it depends on the kind of film as well.
Who's got the voice that just does it for you that you're like, I could hear that all day?
Lupita Nyongo. And I did hear her.
It's not the wrong answer, so it's fine. You can work with her for as long as you want. I'll work with her for as long as I want. What animal do you like the least? It's got to be an animal that just like you're like, I'm not a fan.
I try and love hyenas, you know, and I try and make them, give them their fair dues.
Got it.
You know, and in Serengeti, we're very cautious not to kind of say that one animal's better than the other, because they're all trying to live, you know, and they've all got families to feed, etc. But it's really the one that's kind of most difficult to get very sympathetic to, you know. So I suppose that's the one.
All right. Most beautiful place that you've been?
Oh, been to so many. Coming back to Komodo dragons, I thought the journey to the Komodo island and the landscape of the islands around it, which were kind of like nowhere else on earth, and it just had a kind of stark beauty and a wildness. I thought that really kind of, it wasn't a disappointment when I got there, having tried to follow in David Attenborough's footsteps. I mean, that was amazing. But I suppose the most extraordinary, and it's coming back to the polar bear, is if you're up in the Arctic and I mean, we were a couple of 100 miles from anyone, and you just got this unbelievable white landscape that even, you know, you're there in summer, the sun never sets, and it just kind of kisses the horizon. And it is an absolute incredible beauty.
Okay. This probably is, you might have already answered this. I have two more. So this one I think is already answered. But if assuming that food, shelter, and electricity are not a problem, the place you would want to live for a year in the world, just stay there for a year. Assuming you're not going to freeze to death in the Arctics or, you know, die of dehydration in Africa somewhere, like, where would you live?
That is one of the most difficult questions, because I love so many places. But what I love is the fact that I can go to so many places. So if I was to pick one, it's for a year. It's the tricky bit. The year is the tricky bit. You know, yeah. I love the Maldives and the beautiful sand, and the diving there is incredible, and it's just the most beautiful. But not for a year. You may not get an answer from me.
The year is what's throwing you off. I imagine you want to go somewhere like I mean, like Antarctica might be okay if you, assuming that you have food and you won't die from cold. Then like, who gets to live in Antarctica?
Well, Antarctica is an interesting one, but that's one place I really miss, because and I've missed going to, because I've sent crews there. But you have to go, if you're going to go there, you have to go for a year. So that is, you know, pretty amazing, but it's also incredibly harsh. And it's a real, you know, if anything goes wrong, you know, you can't be rescued. Yeah. You know, so everything that is wonderful has a negative, you know, and that's a pretty big negative, really. And it is every day, it's the same, or pretty much, you know. It's all very cold.
Last question. This is going to be a little spiritual one, though. It's the last day of your life. You know you're going to go today. God has given you a choice to choose an animal to go be with you in the last moments of your life. No fear will be put in, no, they're going to eat you or anything like that, what animal do you want to spend your last moments with?
I think it would be a cheetah, because they're not aggressive to people, and they're very, very calming. And I've spent a lot of time, waiting by the tree that they're under, or them, seeking shade underneath the car. That's the other thing they do. So you get very, very close to them, and you never feel threatened. And so you'd feel you're going out with one of the most beautiful animals on earth.
Just got to tell this really quick, funny story about this exact question. Yesterday, I decided I wanted to ask you this. So I spoke to my friend about this, who's a vegan. And she said that the animal she would pick is a cow so she could apologize for all mankind. And I was like, I'm very much not a vegan. So I was like, just a very vegan answer to give. And I was like, okay, apologize for me then. That's where you want to go with it. So again, to our viewers, Serengeti is streaming on Discovery Go. You can watch it there. You can also go through any of John Downer's filmography. Pride is what he was Emmy nominated for back in 2005. I believe it's on Andy streaming somewhere. You could maybe catch it there-ish, somewhere in the sphere. Everyone can find everything these days, and hopefully in the next few weeks, because Emmy voting opens up next week, I believe on the 2nd, we'll see John Downer maybe shortlisted again. So we're hoping for you. Jana, where can they like look up some of your, do you have any websites or any
Yeah, I mean, the best thing is to go to our YouTube channel. If you just put in John Downer Productions YouTube, that is full of
all the good stuff.
Great variety of stuff. You won't be bored, let's say, and it shows what else we do.
Awesome.
It's yeah.
But thanks for spending this time with us today. I hope you and your family are safe. I know you're in the UK. EU's opening back up and not allowing Americans in. I wouldn't allow us in either. We're filthy right now. Hopefully one day we'll get our act together. But please be safe. Thank you for spending this time with us, and we look forward to your next adventure wherever you bring us.
Well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. It really has.
No, thank you, John. I appreciate it. Have a good day.